recap of week 4 of Astronaut Reserve training, which was actually a bit of a diversion from the normal Astronaut Reserve training schedule because I went to the Columbus Control Center in Oberpfaffenhofen near Munich. The Columbus module of the International Space Station is Europe's big contribution to the ISS. And the Columbus Control Center is the ground segment for that. Life on the International Space Station is divided into increments, which are currently around 6 months. And there's a lot of planning that goes into these increments. Now, I went to ColCC because there was the operations team tag up for increment 73 and Axiom 4, which is a commercial mission that my colleague Slawosz Uznański is going to be on very soon. This is where all the planners and all the different people involved in the ground segment get together and talk about what's going to be happening during the next increment. It was a really eye-opening experience to be at this meeting because there is so much that goes into planning. The scheduling is in 5-minute increments and it's planned months in advance, but it's constantly changing. So we have planning teams that are doing the long-term planning, but then we have people who are there on console planning for that day, and perhaps when something changes, they're planning for the next 20 minutes. There are so many different teams involved, and they all have to get together and talk about the different constraints. And my goodness, there are a lot of constraints. For example, you have to think about when you can do a blood draw, and quite a lot of experiments involve taking blood from the astronauts because we're doing human physiology experiments. You have to think about when you can do that compared to a spacewalk. You also have to think about the kind of vibrations that are going to be happening when people are moving through modules. So you might have to block off a module for a while so that you can do a particular experiment, which means that you can't do any others. You might have to decide to open or close the cupola for certain experiments, or the astronaut can't do exercise for a certain amount of time. Planning is all about maximizing efficiency, making the best use of an astronaut's time. So payload operators have to estimate really well how much time an astronaut is going to take on doing a certain experiment or operation. If you spend too much time on it, then that loses time from the rest of the schedule. And if you don't spend enough time on it, then you're not being efficient. Of course, the training flow is also a really important part of leading into an increment. So we had updates from the training team as well. And you can see in these photos here, some of the training that happens at the European Astronaut Center.